guys, so as you can see I have some conduit. I always forget about these lights, sorry. Which means we may be able to finish off the Auxbeam install. Now I've been going over the wiring diagram for this thing and it's pretty awesome and easy. So if we have a look here, you've got your main solid state box, relays and fuses, power in, negative, your 4-pin plug that goes through the firewall, and then your activator, so your remote wire, like on an amplifier, that's what that one is. You got 30 amp load, 20 amp load, 10 amp load, 5 amp load. So the relays are obviously in here in the form of solid state relays, I dare say. There's all your switch labels, I suppose you'd say. And as I was going through here, I was wondering, which one corresponds to what? But it actually says it, which is good, as you would expect. So number 1 switch corresponds to number 1 load, so 30 amp load. Now I was thinking that with the ARB compressor that comes with the lockers, I was thinking it's probably going to be too heavy of a load to wire up to this, so I ended up buying a 200 amp relay. I know that's overkill, just to be triggered to turn on the compressor. Little did I know though, when I opened up the ARB compressor box, you know, looking at it, you think, oh yeah, it's reasonable size. When you look at the Thumper Max compressor here, you're thinking, yep, it's got to be a reasonable size still. But here it is. Just for reference, that's my finger against the size of this little thing. So I was going through the complicated wiring that comes with it and thinking, oh, this is going to be fun trying to figure it all out, but it's just as I suspected again as well. So you've got your pressure switch hole right here. You undo these grub screws by the looks, and one will control your front locker, one will control your rear locker, and basically the solenoids in here will control each locker. So I've got to open up the locker boxes and then plumb them in as well, and then put this pressure switch straight into the center and make sure that it's hooked up via the positive lead of this, so it turns on and off with the compressor. Once it blows up to, what is it, I think it's 80 or 90 psi, I can't remember to be honest, but there's the wiring diagram. As you can see, there's your little solenoids that go T into it, so you can see that it's both of these solenoids have an earth on them. One's yellow, so you trace it, there's your yellow wire up to your switch, and you go back, dark green, and there's your dark green up there. So there's the yellow one up there for the corresponding solenoid. So yellow, dark green, 2 separate switches, so one front, one rear, or vice versa, and then you have the 2 corresponding solenoids there. I just couldn't get over how small that compressor is. So looks like I can run that straight off the Auxbeam without the 200 amp relay, which I'll save for something else weird and wacky electrical that I like doing. But yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. Also comes with an air filter, got to plumb all that in. We shall see how much I get done today, probably not too much, because I do have some other cars that need to be tinted today, but I had one car that cancelled, and he had to rebook because he forgot all about the booking, so that gave me a bit of time to have a look at what I've got to do here. And that's pretty awesome though. I still can't get over the size of that compressor. Oh, there's the rating, guys. It is on at 70 psi. I don't know if that's going to focus, and off at 100 psi. So there we have it. One solenoid. I've grabbed the other one out, ready to go in. There's all the other bits and pieces that come with the lockers. Comes with the switches, all the fittings. So we've got two of the same part number. Basically gives you the option to have a right angle fitting as well as just a straight fitting, but I only need the straight fitting from the compressor. It'll come straight out the side of the compressor and upwards. I might be able to put a right angle on there and see how we go. So I'm dummying up their wiring with a dodgy earth as well. The earth is only for the solenoid, so it doesn't need to be really good. This is the wiring loom that it comes with, and it gets really simple at this end. So you got your positive, you've got your positive for the solenoids. So this is front or rear locker, this is front or rear locker. So what will happen is it'll evacuate some air once it once you turn the compressor on, and when you want the locker to come on, it'll evacuate air out of each individual solenoid. But what I'm doing right now is just dummying it up so that I can see what the actual amp draw is from this. So 9 amps, 10 amps, pretty much peaked at 10 amps then. And then we can go evacuate some air. So we evacuated some air then. Try again. 10 amp max. 1 amp solid. Take that away. What have we got here? There you go. So I only really need a 10 amp output, but we'll oversize it accordingly, make it 20 amps. So yeah, I can use that to turn it on and off. I don't even really need, maybe I should do a test actually. I'll do a test on what the solenoid draws. So I'll go again. 10 amp max on that one. Go to the solenoid and see what it uses. Next to nothing. So we can have the lockers being switched on and off from a 5 amp. Yep. Oh, that's quite easy. That's awesome. So we got wires running everywhere, but I pre-assembled the whole compressor and I've put it down in here. I reckon I can flat mount that down there. Just sitting it on the hoses at the moment. Obviously the hoses can move out of the way. Pop that down in there just for now, just dummying it up, but obviously because of the size of that compressor, it's going to fit there quite easily, quite comfortably. And then I've got to run air lines out of here quite easily, but I'm pre-wiring absolutely everything, so the whole lot's ready to go when the lockers are getting fitted. So this will all sit in here, pre-mounted, ready to rumble, and this bracket for the Auxbeam can actually get put on here. Move the hose out of the way, sorry. So I can put the bracket on here and then have it so that it goes up and down and out of the way, and I can access the bottom of the Auxbeam quite easily. It actually fits perfect, so I'm not going to muck around with that. I'm going to make it sit and make sure that it can go under the bonnet too. It's very tight, but it all fits. Quite happy with the use of that second battery space that was there. Yeah, may as well utilize it and eventually upgrade the main battery. And yeah, there's just got to put the lockers in after this, so I'll show you soon everything wired up and what's going to happen, what can happen with that Auxbeam. I don't know, that's pretty flash. And I can flip it up and get the wiring straight through the back. Works perfect. I just put 2 zip ties there, made sure there was a zip tie right here so that the hose doesn't rub. It's actually got a good bit of clearance there when you hold it in the right spot. And it closes, the bonnet closes with it down, so I can have it right down there, and it's rubber mounted too, so yeah, not bad. Utilising every square centimetre of the engine bay. Alright, so I've made it so all this wiring can clump up together and zip tie together, but it can also go up and down with the length that I've left on there so that I can still work under it, which is quite handy. So as you can see, the yellow and green wire, one's going to be front locker, one's going to be rear locker, and they're just to activate those solenoids. So all I need is a positive feed from those 2 fuses. I don't need the negatives at all because I've already grounded out the solenoid back over here. Now this is your main 2 power for the compressor, and as the compressor only needs 10 amps, I'm just going to give it a 20 amp power. I don't want to overload. I know that it was like 10.1 amps, so I don't want to melt one of these fuses and run one of the 10 amp ones. I'm just going to go straight to the 20 amp and wire that in. But as you can see, you can unscrew the screws. I don't know if you can see that, I can't tell if it's focusing through the GoPro, but you can see that you unscrew and it drops down, and you've got perfect little clamp spots for it to go into. I've already done this part. This is the power from the lithium batteries, so keep that in mind. This is my main power from the lithium batteries in the back, and that's going to be powering this Auxbeam. Now that Auxbeam then can also hook up some other accessories. I was thinking about putting some lights under the bonnet. Hopefully they don't play up with the GoPro as well, but yeah, I'm quite happy with this. So eventually I'll put a thermo fan on the intercooler as well and have that activated from this Auxbeam. And as you can see, quite literally positive and negative for each load, and it's there ready to go. You don't have to stuff around, you've already got the switches in the car, and you just label it as you please. I really do highly recommend these. For 169 bucks on eBay, you can't go wrong. Okay, sorry about the flickering in advance. We've got what I need wired up and still accessible to that little compressor. Now I haven't bolted that compressor down yet. I'm not bolting it down until I know the exact orientation that these airlines are going to be in. But quite simply now I've got to test it, and I've also got the power running into the Auxbeam from the lithium battery, and then another one out of the Auxbeam, and then going to my 200 amp relay, which I've got to screw back in. I've just realized I haven't done that yet. That will now power this compressor, so I'll still get an accurate reading from my shunt as to how much this compressor is drawing under load, etc, etc. I'll also be powering this compressor from the auxiliary lithium batteries. So this whole section of the engine bay is going to be powered by lithium basically. Now I can also isolate my DC-DC charger here now, because I had 2 ring terminals here going onto the main relay power for that compressor before. Instead of just putting a bolt there or something like that to join it, I've put a circuit breaker there. I do have a fuse up that end, but even though I've got a fuse up that end, I'm still going to have this circuit breaker because it's handy to just disconnect that when I don't need to be putting any power into the lithium batteries at the back. Now why would I do that, do you ask? Is quite simple. I don't want to be putting too much load on the alternator when I don't need to. So if I've got solar, which I will soon, have roof racks up the top, and solar, basically that almost removes the need for the alternator to be charging the lithium batteries, unless of course it's a day without sun. But with 240 amp hours you can get away with running a fridge for ages. So I've got this circuit breaker for ease. to turn on and off when I need to be powering it from the alternator or not. Now also power going to the back for the camper. Now that is a 50 amp DC-DC charger, so at night time or in the very early mornings, very early when it's dark, that means it's pulling 50 amps off that alternator. Then you've got this DC-DC charger in the vehicle, that's 30 amps. Now I'm not too sure what the TD42s are rated to, their alternators from stock, but I dare say it's not going to be able to put up with 2 DC-DC chargers for too long. So we'll have to upgrade the alternator eventually. If both banks are discharged and I want to have both of them charging from the alternator, I'm definitely going to have to upgrade the alternator. But for now I can just go bang, disconnect that one, and then charge the main bank up in the camper. Now the advantages of that camper is I can also use the camper to charge the inverter in the back. So I could hook the inverter up in the back, very inefficient I know, but it could charge that battery bank up, and because the camper's got full time solar 320 watts on the roof, it wouldn't even bother it really. So there's many different options, all different ways to do it, and that's just me mucking around with 12 volt again. But I'm very excited to give this a test now. So if all goes well, I should be able to turn the auxiliary compressor on. Now that one will pressurize, then that pressure switch will turn it off. Then I'll be able to go bang and fire from this one, or bang and fire from that one, and vice versa. So front and rear lockers basically. And that'll give me a answer as to whether the test has gone well. Alright, let's give that a shot. Alright, sorry about the flickering again guys. Hopefully you can see that. Moment of truth. Building pressure, it's built pressure, awesome. Should release, yep. Yes. Awesome. That's all now powered from the lithium. So, how do I do this? Turn that on, release the pressure. Then I'll turn that on and see what the operating amperage is. So the fridge is on at the moment. As you can see, it's pulling 4.3 amps. Now, turn the compressor on. It's not even bothering these lithium batteries. No leaks. Awesome. Well, it's a job well done. Now I've got to tidy all that up, put the cover back on, and I am now ready to have lockers. Woohoo! Here we have it. All done. Oh boy, I can't wait to get those lockers in now. Just cannot wait at all. Pretty chuffed with how that turned out, to be honest, and the ease of access to everything else, and still quite firm. I'm not going to fly around in the engine bay, it's rubber mounted, so yeah, I'm glad I managed to use that space quite well. I've got a little bit of space down here that I could sort out too, I suppose, but there's nothing that I want to put in there. Doubt I could find more accessories. Oh, there you go. Then again, the 12 volt accessory world these days is quite expansive, so you never know. And in case you're wondering, this is a different EGT probe for a different gauge. Not currently using that one, but I am having it here just for a spare, just in case I do decide to have two separate EGT gauges. eventually. But yeah, quite stoked with that. Thanks for watching. Alright, let's see how much the Big Daddy compressor. So that's a thumper max, you can hear howling there. Not under load, so it can draw up to 40 amps under load. Amps under load.
I'ma turn it up and then I'm gonna take it down.